You want real love? Then stop begging for crumbs when you deserve the whole damn table. Stop chasing people who don't even value your presence. Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Real love doesn't start with them. It starts with you. And it starts with self-respect. You've been told your standards are too high, that you're being unrealistic, that nobody's perfect. But let me tell you something bold and true. Lowering your standards is not compassion. It's self-betrayal. You are not here to settle. You are not here to shrink just to be accepted by people who haven't done the work to meet you where you are. And if they call you too much, it's only because your presence exposes how little they bring to the table. Don't ever apologize for demanding what you know you deserve. Because the moment you begin to tolerate less, you send the universe a message that you're willing to receive less. And that's when everything in your life starts to dim. Your energy, your joy, your purpose. Too often, people settle because they confuse love with survival. They think being chosen by anyone is better than waiting for the right one. So they tolerate mixed signals. They endure emotional inconsistency. They accept crumbs and convince themselves it's a full meal. But love is not meant to leave you hungry. Love should feel safe, not scattered. It should be steady, not something that makes you question your sanity at 2 a.m. Settling isn't a shortcut to companionship. It's a fast track to resentment. And once resentment sets in, it eats away at the soul like rust on metal, slowly, silently, until you no longer recognize your own reflection in the mirror. When you raise your standards, yes, it gets lonelier. The room gets quieter. People fall away. But that's silence. That's not emptiness. That's clarity. That's you clearing the space for something greater. You're not being picky. You're being precise. You're making room for the kind of love that doesn't just touch your skin, but speaks to your soul. One that doesn't drain you, but fuels you. One that doesn't demand your silence, but invites your truth. Stop letting mediocre love convince you that you're hard to love. You're not. You're just operating on a level that low vibrational people can't comprehend. And it's not just about romantic relationships. It's about friendships, family, work, every corner of your life. When you decide you will no longer tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or one-sided effort, some people will label you difficult. Let them. That's not your burden to carry. People will always project their limitations onto you. When you begin to outgrow the box, they try to keep you in. Let them go. Let them misunderstand you. Let them gossip. Because their opinions are not your prison. And the version of you that constantly needed approval, that version doesn't live here anymore. There's a deep power in knowing what you want, and an even deeper one in not settling for anything less. That kind of energy shifts rooms. It commands attention without needing to scream. It draws people in without chasing. Because the person who respects themselves becomes magnetic. They become the standard. And not everyone will know how to handle that. Some will test your boundaries. Some will try to make you feel guilty for having them. That's the test. That's the moment where you either choose peace or you go back to the chaos that broke you. Every time you choose peace, you raise your vibration. And every time you raise your vibration, you attract a higher kind of love. Understand this. You were not born to beg for love. You were not created to be almost enough. You are not here to dim your light to keep others comfortable. You are here to be fully, unapologetically yourself. And the right people will celebrate that, not shrink from it. So raise your standards. even if it means walking alone for a while, even if it means turning down the attention that feels good but isn't good for you, even if it means starting over, because the cost of settling is always greater than the fear of being alone. When you finally meet someone who loves you at the level you love yourself, you'll be grateful you never settled. There's a moment when your soul knows it's time to walk away, but your heart still clings to what's familiar. You stay, hoping things will change. You hold on, convincing yourself that maybe they'll finally see your worth. But deep down, you feel it. The slow erosion of your self-respect, the confusion, the doubt, the emotional exhaustion. That's not love. That's survival disguised as connection. And every time you silence your instincts, you abandon yourself a little more. Real love isn't confusing. It doesn't come wrapped in excuses, empty promises, or almosts. When you have to question where you stand, you're already standing on shaky ground. So many people become addicted to potential. They hold on to what could be instead of accepting what I is. They justify disrespect, explaining it away with memories of better days. But here's the truth: someone's potential is not your responsibility. It's not your job to wait until they become what you need. Love should not be a gamble. It should not leave you in limbo, wondering if you matter. If you constantly feel like you're asking for too much, it probably means you're asking the wrong person. The right person won't make you beg for the basics: consistency, honesty, presence. And if they can't give you that now, what are you really holding on to? Silence is an answer, and distance is a decision. When someone stops showing up for you, they've already made a choice. The question is, why are you still choosing them? Walking away doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you care about yourself enough to stop pouring energy into someone who keeps showing you they aren't ready. You can't build a future with someone who's still playing with the past. You can't create stability in a relationship that thrives on uncertainty. And if you have to beg to be seen, to be heard, to be loved, what you have isn't love. It's emotional starvation. It's not your job to teach someone how to value you. That lesson starts with you. Every time you stay in a situation where you're not being valued, you're teaching yourself that this is all you deserve. And that lie is dangerous. It becomes your blueprint for relationships. Soon, the bare minimum feels like luxury. The occasional apology feels like affection. But don't confuse breadcrumbs with a meal. Don't mistake attention for intention. The person who truly loves you will never make you question your worth. They'll honor it, reflect it, and rise to meet it. You have to stop confusing effort with investment. Someone can text you every day and still not show up when it matters. Someone can make time for a phone call, but disappear when things get hard. Real love shows up when it's inconvenient. Real love doesn't flake out when you're vulnerable. If someone disappears every time you express a need, every time you draw a boundary, every time you demand clarity, they are not your person. They're a lesson. And the faster you learn it, the sooner you make space for someone who won't run at the first sign of depth. Walking away is not quitting. It's choosing yourself. It's saying, I refuse to be a prisoner of false hope. It's reclaiming your peace, your power, and your self-worth. The longer you stay in situations that drain you, the harder it becomes to recognize yourself. You begin to shrink. You start editing who you are to fit into a version of love that was never meant for you. But love should never cost you your identity. It should never mute your voice. When you walk away, you're not losing them. You're rediscovering you. And that version of you, the one that finally said, enough. That's where your real power begins. There's a dangerous belief that love means giving until it hurts. That if you just love someone hard enough, deep enough, selflessly enough, they'll eventually heal, change, or become who you need them to be. But love is not about sacrificing your own well-being to rescue someone else from their chaos. You are not a savior. You are not a therapist. And you are definitely not a rehab center for broken people. The moment you start making their wounds your responsibility is the moment you begin bleeding from cuts that aren't even yours. That's not love. That's emotional codependency disguised as devotion. When you constantly overgive, you teach people how to under-deliver. You normalize imbalance. You create a dynamic where your needs are secondary, where your silence becomes expected, and where your worth is only recognized when it's convenient for them. They start to believe you'll always be there, always forgiving, always fixing, always putting them first. And you convince yourself that this is what love looks like. But it's not. Love is not one-sided labor. It's not a full-time job with no benefits. And if someone only shows up when they need something from you, they don't value you. They use you. It's easy to lose yourself in the process of trying to heal someone else. You start to carry their pain like it's your own. You justify their behavior because of their past. You excuse their absence, their emotional unavailability, their inconsistency, telling yourself they're just going through something. And maybe they are. But that doesn't give them the right to damage you in the process. You can have empathy without sacrificing your boundaries. You can love someone and still walk away when it's clear that their healing journey is taking yours backwards. Your peace matters too. Being a giver is a beautiful thing, but only when it comes from a place of self-respect, not self-abandonment. You can't keep emptying yourself for people who don't even notice you're running on fumes. You can't keep pouring from a cup that no one bothers to refill. At some point, you have to ask yourself, why am I so afraid to receive? Why do I equate love with labor? The truth is, if you've spent your life being the strong one, the fixer, the glue, then you've probably forgotten what it feels like to be held, to be nurtured, to be supported. You deserve that too. There's a difference between support and sacrifice. Supporting someone means walking with them, not dragging them. It means holding space, not holding the weight of their entire world. If someone isn't willing to meet you halfway, then they're not walking with you. They're riding on your back. And eventually, that burden becomes too heavy to carry. The longer you enable their comfort at the expense of your own, the more you delay your own growth. Love should be a source of strength, not stress. A place to rest, not a battlefield. If you feel drained more than you feel seen, it's time to reevaluate the relationship. You are not selfish for setting limits. You are not cold for saying, I need more. You are not heartless for refusing to be their emotional crutch. These are acts of self-respect. And self-respect is not negotiable. When you finally stop overgiving, you reclaim your power. You stop chasing people who were never capable of loving you fully. You break the cycle of exhaustion and resentment. And in that space, you begin to understand what true love actually feels like. Mutual, reciprocal, balanced. A love where both people give, both people grow, and no one has to lose themselves to keep the other from falling apart. There comes a point where you have to sit with yourself in the silence, without distractions, and ask, why am I so uncomfortable being alone? because that discomfort holds the answer to everything. Many people run from solitude like it's a punishment. They jump from relationship to relationship, fill every quiet moment with noise, and avoid being alone, as if loneliness will consume them. But here's the truth that most never want to face. The reason you feel lost without someone else is because you haven't truly found yourself. You've become so addicted to external validation that your identity depends on it. And that is the most dangerous dependency of all. Learning to love your own company is not about isolating yourself from the world. It's about reconnecting with your inner world. When you finally sit still long enough, without the chaos, without the constant input from others, you begin to hear your own voice. And maybe at first, it's unfamiliar. Maybe it even scares you. But that voice, that's your truth. That's the version of you that's been buried under years of people pleasing, noise, and distraction. You can't hear her when you're constantly chasing someone else's attention. But in solitude, she speaks loud and clear. And what she says will change everything. Solitude is not a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something is finally right. It's where clarity lives. It's where your energy resets. It's where your standards sharpen. When you're always around people, especially the wrong ones, you begin to confuse their voices for your own. You begin to forget what you like, what you want, what you believe in. You become a mirror instead of a masterpiece. But when you strip it all away, no texts, no validation, no "I need you" from someone who doesn't even know how to love you, you meet the real you. And she's not weak. She's not desperate. She's powerful. But you'll never know her if you never sit with her. Most people fear being alone because they've been taught that their value only exists in relation to others. That being single means being incomplete. That quiet means rejection. That stillness means failure. But that's a lie sold by a society that profits off your insecurity. The truth is, you don't need a relationship to prove your worth. You don't need constant company to be whole. In fact, if you can't enjoy your own presence, how can you expect anyone else to? Wholeness begins within. The deeper you fall in love with yourself, the less tolerance you have for relationships that disturb your peace. There is a calm that comes from knowing you're not dependent on anyone to make you feel loved. There's a strength in waking up and choosing yourself over and over again, without apology. That's the kind of self-respect that radiates power. And when you carry that energy, the right people won't be intimidated. They'll be inspired. Because you're no longer asking for permission to be loved. You're not chasing. You're not settling. You're standing in your truth. And only those who can match that frequency will be able to stay in your life. That's the kind of alignment solitude creates. That's what makes it sacred. If you never give yourself the space to be alone, you'll never truly know what you deserve. You'll keep accepting half love, shallow conversations, and inconsistent effort, just because it feels better than silence. But silence isn't your enemy. It's your mirror. And it reflects everything you need to heal, everything you need to unlearn, everything you need to reclaim. Fall in love with your solitude, not because it's comfortable, but because it's necessary. Necessary to grow. Necessary to see clearly. Necessary to rise. Because once you know how to stand strong alone, you'll never again settle for anything that shakes your foundation. Most people stay silent to keep the peace, not realizing that silence often comes at the cost of their own self-worth. You think you're avoiding conflict, but what you're really doing is abandoning yourself. Every time you bite your tongue to avoid upsetting someone, every time you smile when you want to cry, every time you pretend it doesn't bother you, you're sending a message to yourself that your voice doesn't matter, that your needs are secondary. And over time, that silence doesn't just suppress your truth. It suffocates your identity. You don't find peace by avoiding hard conversations. You find it by standing in your truth, even when your voice shakes. It takes courage to speak up, especially in a world that often punishes honesty. We're taught to be agreeable, to not rock the boat, to maintain harmony even when it hurts. But what's the point of harmony if you're the only one out of tune? Real love, real relationships, real respect, they all require truth. And not just the convenient kind, the uncomfortable kind, the type that makes your palms sweat and your heart race. Because your truth will never feel safe in places that benefit from your silence. And if someone can't handle your truth, they don't deserve your presence. You weren't born to be silent. You weren't created to dim yourself down just to be tolerated. Your voice is your power, and when you silence it to please others, you give that power away. Every time you speak your truth, you reclaim a part of yourself that was lost in trying to be liked. You remind yourself and the world that your feelings matter, that your boundaries are real, that your experience is valid. And you stop living for other people's comfort and start living in your own alignment. Speaking up doesn't make you difficult. It makes you whole. Some people will call you selfish the moment you stop being convenient. The moment you stop saying yes to things that drain you. The moment you set a boundary or express a need. Don't let their discomfort make you doubt your truth. People who benefit from your silence will always resist your voice. But your job isn't to make them comfortable. It's to make yourself honest. That honesty might shake some relationships, but the ones worth keeping will adapt. The ones built on control will fall away. And that's not a loss. That's clarity. Speaking your truth doesn't mean being harsh or unkind. It means being real. It means having the courage to say, "This doesn't feel right to me," or "I need something different," or "This is who I am now." It's not about proving a point. It's about honoring yourself. And honoring yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. Because no one can advocate for your truth like you can. No one knows the depth of your needs, your wounds, your worth like you do. If you don't speak up, you teach others that you're okay with being misunderstood. And silence may keep you safe, but it will never make you seen. The freedom that comes from using your voice is indescribable. It's the kind of freedom that unlocks confidence, clarity, and connection. You start attracting people who respect your boundaries, not people who push past them. You build relationships based on truth, not fear. And you create a life where you no longer feel like a guest in your own story. Because when you finally realize that your voice matters, you stop chasing love that demands your silence. You start choosing peace that includes your truth. And that shift, that's when everything changes. Not because others finally see you, but because you finally see yourself. We've been sold a fairy tale that love is something we fall into, accidental, uncontrollable, and fueled by chemistry alone. But here's the truth no one tells you. Real love isn't something you fall into. It's something you arise with. When you fall, you lose balance, you lose control. But when you rise, you grow stronger, more rooted, more awake. Real love doesn't pull you down into chaos. It lifts you up into clarity. It challenges you not to become smaller, but to become more of who you are. And any connection that dims your light to keep you close isn't love. It's fear disguised as intimacy. We romanticize the idea of losing ourselves in love. But what's beautiful about love isn't losing yourself. It's being seen without having to shrink. When you love yourself deeply, you stop craving love that consumes you. You start seeking love that respects you. The truth is, people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. And if you haven't done the work of rising in your own self-worth, you'll attract people who reflect your wounds, not your growth. Love doesn't complete you. Love meets you at the level you complete yourself. If you walk into a relationship hoping it'll fix you, you've already abandoned your power. You have to stop confusing intensity with depth. Passion without consistency is just chaos with fireworks. Someone showing up strong in the beginning means nothing if they vanish when life gets hard. The kind of love that builds something lasting isn't the one that leaves you breathless. It's the one that teaches you how to breathe deeper, to feel safe, to trust without always preparing for the disappointment. When love is real, it won't make you doubt your intuition. It won't make you feel like you're hard to love. It'll ground you, challenge you, expand you, but it will never make you question your worth. Too many people chase love for validation instead of connection. They want someone to fill their emptiness instead of walking beside them in their fullness. That's not love. That's dependency. And dependency leads to imbalance, resentment, and emotional burnout. When you rise in love, you bring your full self to the table. Your truth, your boundaries, your voice. You stop molding yourself into what someone else wants and start owning who you are. Love becomes a partnership, not a rescue mission. And that's the difference between love that empowers and love that drains. Relationships built on insecurity require constant reassurance. You walk on eggshells. You second guess your every move. You try to be perfect just to keep the peace. But rising in love means you don't need to perform to be accepted. You don't need to prove yourself over and over. The right person will never ask you to shrink to stay. They will rise with you. They will meet you in the growth, in the hard conversations, in the evolution of who you are becoming. If they can't grow with you, they will try to contain you. And your spirit was never meant to be contained. Rising in love starts with you. It starts with the decision to choose yourself first, not in a selfish way, but in a deeply responsible way. You are responsible for the energy you allow into your life. You are responsible for protecting your peace, your joy, your self-respect. When you choose yourself unapologetically, you set the tone for every relationship you enter. You're no longer looking for someone to save you. You're open to someone who can grow beside you. That's love. The kind that doesn't ask you to fall into it blindly, but to rise with it consciously, powerfully, and with unwavering self-worth. The world has trained you to focus so much on being loved by others that you've forgotten how powerful it is to be loved by yourself. You look for validation in someone else's eyes, craving approval, craving attention, thinking that love is something you earn, something you chase. But let me tell you the raw truth. You don't need to be chosen by someone else to be valuable. You were worthy the moment you were born. That love you're desperately seeking, it's not out there, it's inside of you. And the day you realize that, your entire life will begin to change. Because when you love yourself, you stop settling, you stop chasing. You start attracting everything that reflects the value you already know you carry. The reason most people settle for less is because they don't believe they deserve more. They accept half love, conditional affection, temporary attention, because deep down they think that's all they can get. But here's the hard truth. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe you're worth. And if you keep allowing people to treat you like an option, it's because you haven't decided to be a priority to yourself. You can't expect others to show up for you when you consistently show up last on your own list. Self-love isn't just about bubble baths and affirmations. It's about standards. It's about discipline. It's about refusing to be available for anything that insults your soul. The love you give to others, your loyalty, your time, your compassion, it's powerful. But it shouldn't come at the cost of your peace. Some people only love you when it's easy for them, when it benefits them, when it doesn't require effort. And if you keep pouring into people who don't pour back, you'll end up emotionally bankrupt. The love you give should never be louder than the love you give to yourself. You are not selfish for choosing your mental health. You are not wrong for saying no to energy that drains you. You have every right to protect your space like it's sacred, because it is. You must stop trying to prove your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. Stop trying to fix what you didn't break. Stop carrying the emotional weight of people who refuse to meet you halfway. Love doesn't mean overextending yourself. It means creating a partnership rooted in balance and respect. Surah, you should never feel like you're auditioning for a role in someone else's life. You are not a placeholder. You are not an option. You are not here to convince anyone to see your light. The right people will see it without you dimming it. They'll recognize your value not because you screamed it, but because they're aligned with it. Self-love is not a destination, it's a daily choice. Some days, it looks like walking away from a relationship that feels familiar but toxic. Other days, it's standing up for yourself in a room where everyone expects you to stay quiet. And sometimes, it's just looking in the mirror and refusing to believe the lies that insecurity tries to whisper. It's not always easy, but it's always necessary. Because if you don't choose yourself, the world will keep offering you reasons not to. If you don't love yourself, you'll always seek love in places that were never meant to hold you. The love you deserve will never make you question if you're enough. It will never make you feel small, unseen, or replaceable. And before you can receive that kind of love from someone else, you have to give it to yourself first. That's where the real transformation begins. When you choose you, when you respect you, when you value you, that energy shifts everything. It changes who you attract. It changes what you tolerate. It changes how you walk into every room, not needing validation, but radiating certainty. Because in the end, the most powerful love story you'll ever live is the one you have with yourself. And when that love is unshakable, the rest of the world rises to meet you where you already stand.